Welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life. I'm your host, Hannah Nuss, and each weekday we'll share enthusiasm for what's possible and dive into the stories of Iowans living their dream lives right here in the heartland. Whether you're chasing a big goal or just looking for a little inspiration, we've got you covered. Let's change the world together. This is Living the Dream Iowa Life. Let's go. Heyo, welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Nuss. Hey, great to see you. Great to be here with you. Where are we going? What are we doing right now? I don't know, but I'm excited to be here. I partially hope that we are not going on a run. I know that this is going to be run-worthy content, but today we are covering the question of what? Oh no, sorry. Name a time when you back down from your power. A time when you were stepping into it. You knew that this was going to be the next unfolding of what would be. You knew that this was going to take you to the level that you had been seeking. You knew that this would be instant stardom and success. You knew. And maybe you pulled the rug out from under yourself. Maybe you sabotaged yourself. Maybe you talked yourself into a corner, bowing down and not honoring that greatness that lies within you. What was it? And for me, mine went like this. I remember the exact moment. So I had been coaching volleyball quite successfully as a head coach. As a first-time head coach, I started at the ripe old age of 26, and I was responsible for a 3A high school volleyball team in the state of Iowa. In what is arguably, at this point, the strongest area of volleyball in the state. I had actually been successful in that area. And my only proof of that is, I would say probably, and it would be interesting to hear an actual calculation of this, but in the last, I don't know, I'm just thinking at least 5, I would say 10 years, probably 70% of the state titles have gone to this specific geo-target region that I live in. This like 50 mile radius. And I had been successful in that area, which is really hard to do, especially if you're not coming from a program that had already been successful. I hadn't taken over a program that had had records of success. I hadn't walked into a picture-perfect situation. And what I will say is from the beginning, I was asking questions. What do you want? What do you want from this season? What do you think is possible? Where do you want to go? As the program leader, you know, I didn't come in with this barking list of demands. This is what success looks like to me. I had asked all of them, and I was young and I didn't really know anything. And I think that was the best place to come from. And so for the next 3 years, that's what we did. What do y'all want to do? And we wrote it on the board. And I didn't let them write things that everyone else was writing. I made them hold themselves accountable to what they would actually believe and buy into. And we kind of went from there. So my first year, we didn't write on the board. And I remember having this conversation like, hey, I'm a new coach. This is a new program. We are not writing on our board to win a state title. Do any of you think that we could win a state title this year? Would any of you believe that? And some of them knew, oh, this is a trick question. Yeah, raise your hand. I believe we could. She's tricking us here. I'm not tricking you. You can put your hands down. I don't believe it either. But what can we believe? And so I start building the case. Hey, you haven't done much, but at one point, this school had a very successful program. And you haven't done terribly either. You're not one of the worst teams in the state. So, what can we write on this board that we can actually believe in? What is something that would stretch us that we don't quite know how to get to? And I said, I know very well how to have a moderately successful volleyball season. I have experienced those my entire career. I don't know how a team gets to state. I don't know that. Me as a coach, if I'm setting my own goals for myself that I'm not communicating to my team, I know how to have an okay season. I know how to have a pretty good season. I know how to have a season that you lose the game before state. I know that very, very well. I don't know how to get over that hump. And so that's kind of my own focus. Our team said, we just want to make it to state. That's it. We're not going to write up fantasy versions of what this should look like. We just want to make it to state. If we're going to start stair-stepping ourselves to success, making it to state will get us where we want to go. So we commit to that. All right. Yep. We're going to make it to state. Don't know how to do that. We're going to make it. That's what we're going to do. And our first season, we make it. Well, then we're all sort of looking around like, whoa, maybe we just set the goal a little too low. Maybe winning a state title is not the wildest thing that we could write on that board. And so the next year we come in, we ask the questions, what do you all want to do? Now that we've been there, we know what it feels like. We've walked to the floor, we've experienced the lights, we've competed at that level. What do we want this year? What can we imagine for ourselves? And so we had said, so we want to play for a state title. It's like, okay, that seems like a big stretch, but I don't know how to do that either, so I'm good. Yeah. You guys can buy into that? You really think that we can do that? Yep. How are we going to do that? How are we? Just keep asking them the questions. How do you plan on doing that? How are you going to set yourselves different from the rest of these teams? What is going to be different about you? Because you can't compete being the same thing. Oh, we have the most talented people. We didn't. We have the most Division I recruits. We didn't. We have the most athletic team. I think we had one of the more athletic teams. We have the fastest offense. I would say that was one of the things that we commit to was just pace of play. We have drive, determination. We had a strategy that we all bought into. This is how we're going to win. This is how we're going to get there. And we played for a state title. We ended up second in the state that year. And my third year, we come back. We ask the same questions. We have a little disbelief throughout our program that we could play for a state title this year, that we could win a state title this year. But that's what we say. We're going to win a state title. And we do it. We win. We win the whole thing. 3 years in as a head coach. Started at 26. And so right away, I think after my second year, after we proved that that was not just a fluke, that we made it to state, after my second year, that's when I start getting invited to a bunch of higher up coaches meeting, bigger opportunities. My name starts being thrown into the hats with greats, people that I have looked up to my entire career. Not only as an athlete, but also as a coach. It was madness. And what I do want to point out is the year that we won it, every state title was brought back that year within 20 minutes of each other. Everyone. 5A, I think. For sure, 5A, 3A, 2A, and 1A were all actually within 15 minutes of each other. Yeah, that's how good this area is. And then I think the 4A, we don't have very many 4A schools in our area. The 4A title was about a half hour from us. So still, like, that's a pretty significant pocket of champions in one area. And then we come back to the fourth year. I'm older. I'm wiser. People are inviting me to things. They are treating me different. They're talking to me different. They're talking to me like I'm something. I'm important. I'm supposed to be here. And all of a sudden I thought that I was. And that was when everything changed. All of a sudden I thought that I knew better, that I knew how to do this, that I was so smart and I had all the good ideas because I had gotten us to where we were. And it's not wild that I would feel that way. People made me feel that way. I was invited to so many things. I was, 3A coach of the year. I had essentially, I had made it. I was at everything. I was sitting with people I looked up to my whole life. They were asking me questions. They were wanting to know how I structured things, what my strategy was, how I did things. They were giving me hugs that I didn't even ask for. It's wild. And it totally went to my head, without question. And the problem was, I quit asking questions. I made decisions. I made decisions for our team. I made decisions about where we wanted to go. I made decisions about what we could believe about ourselves. I made decisions about everything that year. And the last stand that I had planned to make, I knew that we could actually come back from the year that we had. We struggled. We were kind of up and down. We were acting like a team whose coach decided what we should aspire to, whose coach decided what the limit was for this team. We were looking like a team who had someone at the helm that thought they knew better. That's what we looked like. We were here, there, everywhere, and nowhere. Fast. There was so much drama and craziness and just constant madness. And I was struggling to keep my head above water. Everything was so right the year before. Everything was so right. And honestly, my fourth year really wasn't all that bad either. We were still ranked within the top 10 for a majority of the year. We were still winning. It really wasn't that bad. But I stopped asking. I stopped asking what my team wanted. I stopped asking what they thought they could do, and I started telling them what they could do. I started telling them what I believed they were capable of, instead of asking them what they believed they were capable of. I started telling them what I wanted from the season, instead of asking them what they wanted, and then building the season accordingly. And the result of that was madness. And we actually got a pretty good draw to compete at the state tournament. We had a pretty cake walk for what we probably deserved. And all of a sudden I come up with this strategy for how we were going to kind of arch our comeback, what our central focus was going to be for the next month. And I had shirts printed and I was ready. And honestly, I knew that these kids would buy into that. And I knew that us turning everything around that season would probably lift me to a level of coaching success that I would never leave. And I'm certain that I did not have those words at that time, but I could feel this call. I could feel this bigger call that was like, you are not supposed to be here. And yes, this will fix everything. But if you fix everything, you'll never leave. You'll never know your full potential. And I needed to leave. I needed to leave. And so I never handed out those shirts. I never played out that strategy, that buy-in, the way that we had built ourselves into the state ready team every year. I didn't roll that plan out because I knew it would be impossible to leave then. And it wasn't impossible to leave because it was more of this would be the path of ego chasing competitive me, the me that I have known my entire life. And yes, I have the key to unlock that higher power. However, it's baited. You can unlock this door. And when you unlock it and you step into it, it closes behind you. And this is all you will ever know. Is this where you want to be forever? So I never unboxed those shirts. Because as much as I had wanted this, I had wanted this success, I had wanted to prove myself in this world, I had wanted to coach and inspire, it was a ceiling. It was contained in a way that made me stoppable, in a way that could only live in this one arena. Yes, I'd be opening the door, but it would lock behind me, and I would be here forever. And I could feel that this was not my full health self. I knew this was not me in my fullest expansion. And so I don't open that box. The season ends even more abruptly than we had ever planned. I started suffering in my role more than I ever had before. And this is every lesson that I've ever taught ever on this show. The pain will get worse. And I hadn't learned that lesson very well before this point. But by the spring, everyone was coming at me. Everything was more painful than before. Every blow, everything hurt. And by the spring, I had realized that it was time for me to move on, to figure out who I was without this thing. And I think bigger than that, who I was without finding release through this method I had always had. I had always had athletics, and so as an athlete, I could always expand and give that energy off into this thing. And as a coach, it was the same type of release. I could always release and expand and obsess and strategize and think and move and compete and figure out what to do. And I needed to find a new release for that same energy. And I think the bigger fear of leaving coaching was, what if I don't find it? I had only known it in this way. I had only known myself as a disciplined, structured, strong human being as an athlete. And if I don't have that as an outlet, who am I? Am I strong anymore? Am I structured anymore? Am I disciplined? Every time that I didn't have sports, I became this loose goose, uncompetitive, undisciplined loser. Loser, yeah. That's the only way I can describe it. And I was so afraid to let that go for that reason. But eventually, the pain of holding on to it was costing me more. Like all of the obsessive, insane conversations that took time and presence away from my family. And I think the presence was the biggest one. I wasn't able to be there ever. Even when I was there, even when I was, oh yeah, I'm balancing it all beautifully. I'm here. I'm not here. I'm in the email that was sent to me 20 minutes ago. I'm in the meeting I had a week ago. That's where my head is. It's thinking through all of that. I'm in the practice plan that I'm making for 2 days from now. I'm in the game tape that I watched 3 days ago, analyzing the player and coming up with the strategy. That's where I am. I'm not here. I am physically here. I am mentally anywhere else. And sports were such a great escape for me. An escape from stepping into my own power, an escape from, as a college athlete, as a student athlete, I think it was an escape from having to take school all that seriously, an escape from having to decide what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, an escape from having to own my intelligence, the power of my brain. It was an escape. I was an athlete. It's okay. I love sport. I love sport. It's okay. I'm just this person. I don't have a brain otherwise. And as a coach, it was escape from all the hard things. Being a young married coach, it was an escape from building and focusing on my marriage. Being a young mother, it was an escape from being a mother. Like motherhood just had to go on sort of this automatic schedule of barely holding on. And that might have been a young mother thing, but it also was I am overwhelmed and barely anywhere in my life right now. And it was an escape from work, from reality, from the fact that I had no dreams at all, and I was 28. That I really had no path from here. But if I could be planning youth programs 7 months out of the year, everybody gave me a pass. Like, oh, that's just she's just busy. I don't know how she does everything that she does. She's so amazing. Yeah, we don't expect her to add that much. That's okay. Like, she's not really ever here, but who expects her to be? She's doing so much. And I don't know. The moment that I kept those shirts in my car was the moment that I chose myself over everyone else. And while the results of that would not unfold until about 5 months later, that was when I decided I was going to find myself. That would have been spring of 2019. So I would have turned 2018. We won 2017 we won a state title. So spring of so 2018 I turned 30. I take my 30th birthday to figure out what dreams and goals that I have. I write down very superficial ones. But I'm dreaming again. I'm headed in the right direction. I'm questioning whether or not this is what I want. I'm starting to focus on just presence and where I'm at. And by the end of that season, I realized those superficial goals are not what I want. This is not going to be enough. This is not the fullest potential of myself. This is not full expansion for me. I want more. So I don't take the shirts out. I know that if we don't make a turn, everything that was bad this season is going to get so much worse. I almost just knowingly sign up for that pain because maybe the next blow will convince me that it's time to go. Maybe the next da 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 da. And I had sought counsel in one of my closest, wisest friends, and she had said, "You don't. It doesn't have to be some big, big thing. There doesn't have to be a crescendo. There doesn't have to be a build up. Like, you can show up tomorrow and just be done. You're an adult. You have that power. You don't need to give any reason whatsoever. It doesn't have to be a big, long speech. You can be grateful for the career that you've had, and you can just be done." And after she sent that text, I scheduled the meeting, and the next day I was just done. And that moment seemed like stepping out of my power, but I do think that was the moment where I stepped out of kind of living forever egotistically in yellow and transcending into the possibility of getting to those higher chakras. I think otherwise I would have just stayed in this ego swirling of self for the rest of my life. And I knew there was so much more that I could contribute to this world. But as a coach, it's sort of intoxicating. The power, the leadership, the majesticness of that, the egotistical self in all of that. And you do have that power. And I think great coaches hand that power over. And before I was great, I did that very well because I wasn't great and I never believed I was. And I worked like someone who wasn't. And I talked to kids like someone who had no idea what they were doing because I didn't, and neither did they. And we could buy into something that we figured out together. And the moment that it all went wrong was when I shifted into the like the overbearing yellow piece of all of this. And in order to heal from that and actually start moving in the right direction, I had to let that go because it had absorbed everything. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.